video is on Pythagorean Theorem. Pythagorean was a mathematician who lived in Greece and Italy and a couple of other places, and was in the time that a lot of mathematicians were finding out things about numbers and relationships that would be the same. So his theory has to do with a right triangle. It has to be a right triangle. And to understand what we're going to be talking about, this is called a leg of a triangle, and this is called a leg of a triangle. And the length opposite the right angle is called the hypotenuse. So that's the relationship that this is going to be between the two legs and the hypotenuse. Now, the interesting thing is that when you have this and you start dragging it, does any side, this side is getting bigger and this side is getting bigger. Will this side ever get bigger than the hypotenuse? And he found that it would not. It would never grow bigger than the hypotenuse. So here is Pythagorean's theorem. He was the first to discover the relationship between the squares of the side lengths of a right triangle. So we have this side length and this side length, and it relates to this side length. And you can look at it as this. And it's the square root of this, the square of this, and the square of this, those combined equal the square of this side. So these are the two sides, and by knowing these two sides, you can find out the third side. Or by knowing the hypotenuse, you can find out the side. So this is the way it works. This is the formula: a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a is the side, a leg of the triangle, and b is another leg of the triangle, and c is the hypotenuse. So we're going to use that a lot. Now, to understand where this comes from, here is a triangle here, and you have the side length here of 3, and that squared is 9 blocks. And then you have the leg here, and the side length is 4, and that is 16 blocks squared. So what is the area of this one squared? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times 5, which is 25. Now the interesting thing is if you add 16 and 9, you get 25. So this was unheard of, that this would stay the same and happen every time you had a right triangle. And that's why it's called a theorem. So let's talk about how to use this. And it's really super easy as long as you write out the steps. So I've got A here, let's call this A, and let's call this B, and let's call this C. And so A squared is 7 squared, and B squared is 24 squared. And that's going to equal C squared, which I do not know. Now you're going to need a calculator for this, because I don't know in my head what 24 squared is. Now I do know what 7 squared is, it's 49. And then 24 times 24 is 576. And I add that to 49, and I get 625. And to find c squared, I take the square root of that. And the square root of that should be 25, I believe. Oops. Square root of 625. And it is 25. So C equals 25. And it's meters. And it's always going to be a distance, so you need to include your units. So this squared plus this squared equals this squared. Okay, over here, now I know my hypotenuse is 30 squared, and this is, we'll go ahead and label these A, B, and C. And A is 18 squared, and I want to find out what B squared is. So I would go 18 squared equals 324 plus B squared equals 30 squared. Oops. $900. Now to find this missing one, I need to work it like an equation. I need to take this from 900. So I'm going to subtract 324, and I get 576, and then I want to take the square root of 576 equals 24. So just B equals 24. So it was this minus this, and that gave me an answer, and then I took the square root of it. And I should show that step, really, so that you guys can see it. So B squared is equal to 576, and then the square root of B and the square root of this, so B equals 24. And what are my units? Centimeters. Okay, so now we have the square shown, and it says find the value of the missing square and fill it in. So we'll call this A, and this B, and this C. And so A is 64. It gives me the squares this time. And B is 225, and that equals C squared. So I've got 64 plus 225 equals 289. 289 equals C squared. Now I'm going to take the square root of both of those. So I'm going to say second square root of 289 equals 17. So C equals 17, and my units are meters. So you can get the idea of this. This time I'm going to take 256 plus B squared equals 400. And so I'm going to say 400 minus 256 equals, so B squared equals 144. Well, the square root of B and the square root of 144 would leave me with B equals 12, and the units is feet. So this is how you do it. Now, you are going to have word problems, and you're going to have some word problems today that you're going to have to practice, and we'll come back to those.